so we could go live. Okay. Hey, welcome Fargo to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. It's it's not even balmy, let's face it. It's hot. It's hot, and I got my hot, I guess it'd be pink shirt on today. I just felt I woke up in a good mood, and I wanted to be bright and shiny. If you guys are looking on Facebook, I have this explosive fuchsia pink shirt. Mrs. Brantner loves this shirt on me. She says it makes me look fantastic. So we're going to jump right in because we got a lot of stuff to cover. We're going to start with a week in review, but first of all, if you look to my left, Mr. Jason Elhert, the president of the North Dakota Building and Trades Union, is here. We got a lot to talk about because right now we have a shortage, and I would call them essential workers, okay? And that's in regards to the trades. So, perfect example, this week, guess whose furnace went out? Our air conditioner went out. And so, first, trying to schedule people has been, everybody's busy or everybody's short of talent. I hope nothing happens to the plumbing. Otherwise we're going to be in the world of hurt in the Adams household. But this is what I've been talking about for the past year. Last year I had Denise Jonas on. She's involved with work-based learning, the work-based learning platform for the Fargo-Moorhead area. And so, as the boomers retire, as Gen Xers get older, we have to have people in these critical positions. And I'll tell you, nothing's more critical when the plumbing goes down or you don't have water. Think about this. Winter comes and now our furnace goes down. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is nothing to fool with. So I wanted to have Jason on because there are interesting opportunities that I need people to hear and know about in the trades. So I'm going to go through my week in review, and then we're going to jump right in because I think this is vital that people understand that there are resources out there. I always say I would have loved to be a young person in this era right now. So many job opportunities. We have computers that we hold in our hands. We can do in an instant, if you want to change your life, you can do that. And if you get on what I like to refer to as YouTube University, there's absolutely nothing that you can't find on there. So, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jon, for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate that introduction as well.
Well, I've been trying to schedule for a while, but I always say that things happen when they're supposed to happen. So I'm happy to get you here because I just think it's really important for the city of Fargo-Moorhead and the surrounding area. So quickly, I'm going to run through the week in review. So evidently, we have a new deputy mayor. Congratulations, Denise Kolpak. I'm a little on the fence on this because I had Denise on the show, Commissioner Kolpak on the show a couple weeks ago, and whereas I thought she has done some fantastic things, I didn't get the impression that she would be qualified to be the deputy mayor. Now, that's my opinion. Some of the things that I see, there's not a whole lot of policy coming directly from her. She's typically working in conjunction with the mayor. The fact that in this 2-year span, we hear her say, I don't know a lot. And for me, I can't have that in my people that are running the city because as a business owner, when somebody comes to me, I can't say I don't know. We elect you to have the answers. And so in the past year, we've hired a city administrator, assistant city administrator at $200,000, and she had experience, but she was not the most qualified person to get that job. And now we have a deputy mayor. I thought Pepcorn did a fantastic job as deputy mayor. Maybe he didn't want the job, so she got it by default. I don't know. But in something as important, if Mayor Mahoney goes down, I believe that makes her the mayor. Okay?
Yes, as far as I know.
Something as important than that. We elect our officials to make decisions that are really going to help us move forward. And I don't know if this is a great decision, but time will tell. Mm-hmm. She's got 2 years to get seasoned. I imagine this is a stepping stone to the mayor's race, but, I just feel like, wow. We talk about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and in these two positions, it looks to me like DEI is working fine. It's working well because, according to people, The problem with DEI is that we don't elect, or the person that's most qualified doesn't get the job. I've heard that over and over again.
Yeah, there is an element to that can be considered on there, but I don't know if you know, but I mean, before becoming into the building trades, I was a social studies teacher, so I was a history teacher, big fan of history. And one of the comments I always remembered was, as General S. Patton always said, is, sometimes when you put somebody in the position, don't tell them how to do it, just put them there and let their ingenuity take care. So sometimes maybe that's the aspect of it is someone, you need to check all these boxes for those qualifications, or you say, you know what? Sometimes once you're presented with this opportunity, maybe that's where the ingenuity comes forth.
Well,
maybe just to push back on you, or the devil's advocate a little bit.
Based on the arguments that I've heard people say, well, if this diversity hire is flying the plane, I don't want that person to be the pilot. We hear it over and over again.
Yeah, you want qualification.
Well, for me, we're talking about city government, where I pay taxes. This directly impacts me. Otherwise, I wouldn't talk about it unless it had something to do with the golf course. But my thing is, people have to realize that these are elected officials, okay? And they're handling a budget. They're dealing with our money. They are planning for the future. Now, I've said before, Fargo is an unbelievable place for economic growth. If you want to stake your claim, it's like the Wild Wild West. Anything that you want to do in this town, you can do it. And there are people that will help you and support you. And we have an interesting situation between us because my nephew is here and has an opportunity, maybe not with you guys, but he's already seen all the things that Fargo has to offer. And it's amazing. So for me, I want to know that the best qualified person is in that position at all times. So with that, I'm going to move on because I started reading up on Project 2025, and it's some scary stuff, folks. It's scary in the fact that a lot of the rights that we have are slowly being eroded. And with Project 2025, if they do what they want us to do, if you think Obama's one world order was scary, go and look at the bullet points. It's a 920-page document. I'm through 100 pages right now. And just in the first 100 pages, I'm like, I hope everybody reads it or get the Cliff Notes or something. So I'm going to leave that out there because that's a show for next week. And then lastly, before Jason and I go in on this, qualified immunity for the president with presidential acts. Now, I don't know what a presidential act is, but I do know this. Nobody should be above the law, okay? Nobody. I don't care if it's Biden, Trump, not even me, even though I think I should be because I'm old, I mean, I should get some grace here when I'm speeding home from the golf course. But as American citizens, we should be worried because now we're in uncharted territory. There is one person that can do things under the guise of official capacity that could be to our detriment. And now, like I said, I don't like either one of the candidates running for president. My money, I want RFK, to tell you the truth. But it's scary to think that one guy's sleepy and the other guy is not all there, okay? That's scary to me. And the problem is, it's not those two gentlemen, because I'm not foolish enough to think that they're actually making decisions, but it's the people that are behind them. It's the special interest. We know that that's what makes this country go, but it's scary times. And so as Americans, as citizens, we have to do our duty to become educated on things like Project 2025, hold their feet to the fire on qualified immunity is something different. But I don't believe in that either. Because if you're doing your job as an officer, you shouldn't be doing things that break the law or live in that gray area. But that's another show. Anyway, so I wanted to throw those things out there. Like I said before, I'm not into, hey, take one side or the other. I'm glad you pushed back a little bit because I talk about dialogue and that's what's needed. And I'm just one man with an opinion. And let's face it, with half of a full functioning brain, who's to say whether I'm right or not? So Big Game James says we're up against a break. When we come back, we're going to talk with, oh my God, Jason Elhert about, yes, you see that just right in the middle there. We're going to hit this thing hot and heavy because it's something that people need to know. It's going to affect particularly our youth, the people that are going to make our country strong and keep it strong. This is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. Hey-o! That's probably the shortest break in the history of radio, but that's okay because we're here with Jason Elhert, and we are talking about the trades. You are the president of the North Dakota Trade Unions. Let's talk about the state of the trades as it relates to employment right now.
Busy, very busy. I serve also on the Governor's Workforce Development Council. I mean, for us in the building trades, the construction industry, things are booming all over the state. We've got work. I mean, I can point to project or list project after project after project that we're all at. But there's full employment, full capacity, and then really that's been going on for almost a year now. We haven't seen major layoffs like we used to see up here with our northern climate, like we used to. Yep. Obviously, the road construction is always going to still be shut down after November 15th, typically around that time frame, and then start back up in April. But in terms of schools and hospitals and infrastructure that you're needing, I mean, you're even seeing bridges being built in the wintertime now where that, right, 10 years ago probably would have never happened. One project that we're on the flood control project, the Red River Diversion Control Project, which is, important to a lot of people. We had members there working well past into January. Some layoffs, but it's been good.
So what about so right now I'm in an employee crunch where I can't find enough people to wash these windows. So I'm going to take off this bright shiny shirt when we get done and hit the windows. What are we doing as a city to try to combat the fact that we need these workers?
I think that it probably should be more of maybe not so much combat, but maybe it's a collaborative effort. How do we connect up everybody? How do we all the positions that we have that we need that whether in the construction field, nursing field, tech, biosciences, all of those things. It's just connecting what the needs are out there versus what are the options that are needing for after high school, post-secondary education, how those things all coalesce. That's one of our biggest challenges with us in the trades is to regather that focus to get everybody back on track that, hey, there is careers in construction that, yeah, you are going to get dirty during the day. You are going to take a shower at the end of the day, but there's value. There's knowledge. There's acceptance of that's a viable career pathway. And that's been I think for us in the trade unions, the construction trades has always been our biggest challenge. I've talked to thousands of students across this state and just trying to encourage them about what the opportunities are. And I think there's always just this pushback or this belief of, well, if I know I need to go to college, I need to go to a university. I know my career pathway is set, and that's the biggest challenge I've encountered for a lot of us.
I'll tell you, Jason. So I did some mentoring in South High, and exactly where you talk about exactly what happens. But also, one of the things that I have managed to get kids to see is the dollar value.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I told them, hey, you know what? You might start out making $30 an hour as an apprentice, or somebody might pay you to go to school $30 or whatever, and they're like, what? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden that hesitancy towards an occupation in the trades, it tamps down, and then I talk to them about the future and the fact that if you develop a skill, let's take welding, and you're good at it, people will fly you around the world to work on special projects. You get to see the world, you get to travel. And then if you're really great, you can hang out your shingle, as we like to say. And that's where we all know that owning a business is where the money is. And so when I was working with Denise in work-based learning and trying to develop the platform, one of the things that I really learned is we have to meet these kids where they understand. See, for us, growing up, it was like, you know what? it doesn't matter what job you have, whatever job you do it well.
Yep.
Right? Well, now it's different. My son said he's never going to work for a paycheck. And I'm like, well, how are you going to have what you have in life? Well, I'm going to enjoy my life. I'm not going to work 40, 60 hours. I'm not going to do all that. And it's like, well, that's how you move forward. You could be a robot in a cubicle and that's fine. But if you want to get to where you think you want to get to, there ain't no 40-hour work week involved. So I think it's great that the work-based learning platform has come online, as well as the technical high school.
Yep.
Because those, like education, it starts way before high school. And we used to have shop class. We used to have all these different entities where it piqued your interest.
Yep.
Like I remember making a wooden bird and learning how to sand it, and it was ugly, but I did it, you know, and I was very proud of it. And my mom was like, yeah, you can keep that in your room. But the point is, it spurred also welding, you know. Believe it or not, folks, I used to be able to change my own oil and do a lot of maintenance on my own car. As I've gotten older, I found that I would rather leave that to somebody else. Yeah. So let's talk about the technical high school.
Yeah, so we work a lot, very closely with Dr. Jonas, and we're actually working on a couple different things with her in Cass County on pre-apprenticeship programs too. While in the high schools, you can think of it as like a dual credit, where a student could be getting credit not only for their CTE requirements, but they could be getting fulfilling their requirement in their apprenticeship program. So upon completion, the idea is that they could be, like the dual credit, graduating not only with a high school degree, but getting also a degree in like an associate's degree. Where we're working on this is that they could be advanced 2 years into their apprenticeship program, maybe even 2 years advanced into their pay scale. And now we got to work out of that simulated work experience or that work-based learning. We work very closely with that, with Dr. Jonas. We work with Wade Sick of CTE, Kirsten Baszler with DPI. And that's really the focus we're trying to come back around, is that it's not trying to say, hey, College for All is going to work, or not push back on it, but understanding what the real ramifications are of what post-secondary education looks like. And we have an apprenticeship program. That's what all the building trades unions use in the state of North Dakota, the 15 trade unions that make up the building trades, so like electricians and carpenters and iron workers and plumbers and heavy equipment operators. Each one of those have a registered apprenticeship program. And how do we get that focus back into the working people of this country that we need to build all the infrastructure that we got? Whether it's hospitals like the Sanford Hospital that's behind you, you know, that's a level 1 trauma center, or, you know, somewhere in there. You're so big, you're blocking it out.
You do not distract me. Now, I don't know if you've listened to the show, but I have not taken my medicine today, so I will be all over the place.
I know you. Right? We've known each other for a couple decades. I know I could get you off track pretty quickly.
It doesn't take much, trust me. So along those lines, you know, we hear about the worker shortage. What are we doing to attract? Well, no, before I back up, one of the things that I've been impressed with the city government as well as the chamber is the private, public, what do you call it?
Private, public, P3, maybe private partner, public-private partnership. There we go.
Yes, the fact that the city and private businesses recognize this need, and I'm amazed at. See, this is the problem. There are some areas that I think our government is outstanding, and this is one of them where we see a need, as well as trying to keep our young people in this state. And hats off to, I think Shannon is still over there at the chamber.
Yep.
Yeah, she's done a fantastic job when she's come in. And so it's like acknowledging these things, but getting the information out there.
Yep.
And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because, you know, first of all, the kids have to know, and then also the parents have to know. And so along those lines, the private-public partnership that has developed, and so you have allies in the community. How are we moving so that we get those jobs in here and keep them here?
Well, and that's what's the beauty of a registered apprenticeship program. We work with our contractors to say, what do I need to have my first-year apprentice need to know? What does that second-year apprentice need to know, third year, fourth year, and fifth year? And that's the beauty of it. When I went through my apprenticeship program as in the Bricklayers Union, the first year I wasn't expected to hang with the journey workers and get everything, get the block in the wall, get the brick in the wall, build the corner leads and up to the perfect. But I remember sitting there in like my first couple of weeks in my apprenticeship program and struggling to keep up. And how do I maintain this? And one journey worker just pulled me aside and goes, I'm frustrated. He goes, yeah, you're frustrated. It's brand new. It's a brand new trade. You're going to make mistakes. You're learning. But this is what the contractor has done, is indentured you into an apprenticeship program, working with the building trades unions, saying, okay, by my first year, this is what I'm able to accomplish. But I'm working on a tiered schedule of pay. So I'm not making a journey worker's wage at that time was like $40 an hour. It was 20.
Right.
Well, as I grow, as I get better, as I get more efficient, as I'm making my contractor more money, they make more money, and in turn, the increased pay comes through there because you're attaining a set of skills that are valued by the industry. And that's what the whole registered apprenticeship program becomes about. It's a public-private partnership. It's private industry working with whatever unions, an RTI, a college, whatever, to say, here's what I need them to know first, second, third year to make them most effective.
Fantastic. So we Big Game James says we're up against the break. We'll be there in a couple minutes, but when I come back, I want to touch on the fact that growing up, we always heard you got to go to college, you know, and my parents were always like, you got to go to college if it makes sense,
Yeah.
you know, and so when we come back, we're going to talk about the fact that a lot of people go to college because they think they should go, and they figure they're going to take their generals the first 2 years, and then they're going to figure it out. That's a lot of money wasted. Anyway, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about post-secondary education versus heading to the trades. This is Jon Adams with Talk of the Town. If you want to call in, the phone number is 701-293-9000. Hey, I'm here with Jason Elhert, president of the North Dakota Building and Trades Union, and we have been talking about everything from DEI to the trades. And when we left, I wanted to touch on the fact that, like I said, when I was growing up, it was like, hey, you need to go to college. Mm-hmm. And now there's been a shift.
Yes.
And it's mandatory now because we recognize that we should have been broader in our scope in talking about careers.
Yep.
And so under the Jon Adams plan, if I were president, okay?
Oh boy, all right. Do I need to take out a pencil?
When it comes to education, at the point that we realize that somebody doesn't have the aptitude to go to college, we instantly send them to develop a trade, okay? What they're entering, like my son Jackson, loves math, loves science. Both of my sons do. Instantly, we take them out of the classroom and we put them in those career paths that accentuate what they know how to do. I think we waste far too much education trying to pigeonhole kids. And by the way, since I'm on a rant, as parents, we need to decide their career path until they're 18. I'm sorry about this, hey, let them explore and let them find themselves. I have friends that have let their college-age kids find themselves to the tune of $10,000 to $20,000 of a year wasted in college because they didn't have a direction. So let's talk about the post-secondary education piece.
Agreed. That's the challenge that we're always faced with, and putting that re-emphasis back into like career and technical education, what you talked about earlier, of that there is. For us in the building trades, you use it all the time. How many times do you walk out there with a tape measure on your hip? Yep. Everything we do in the trades is resolved around that tape measure. Everything we do is around math. There's science involved in the building trades. I talk about this all the time when I'm talking to students. We have industrial painters that work out in the power plants out west and the coal-fired power plants that we have, that we maintain. They have to understand science. You go, well, what do you mean by science? They're just applying paint. Well, yeah, but these paint coatings are coming in multi-components, plural components. So you have to be mixing them on site. So you have to know the temperature. You have to know the humidity. You have to know the dew point. You have to know the temperature of the steel. You have to apply these coatings in a proper mill level so that they protect the metal, these huge, massive investments by industry, but not putting that coating on so heavy that it just peels itself right off. Right. And when you start talking about some of these coatings being $500 a gallon or more, you start messing up the science and how you mix these things. That's a lot of money out the door. Right. So that's where we talk about with the young people of like, well, I don't want to go into the trades. I don't think if I can't make it in college, and I've had that told to me, I'll come do the trades. To where I respond is like, well, if you can't make it in college, you're probably not going to make it in the trades.
Ouch.
So, and I didn't say that to the student that told me that.
You should have. Tell the truth always.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's getting back to the validity of a career pathway in the trades. And I think that's far too long, when you look up here's the one that'll blow your mind. If you were to go on your computer right now and you type in successful job, successful work, successful career, and you click on those images, what do you think comes up?
Doctor, attorney, engineer.
Suits and ties, corner offices. And this is a beautiful corner office. Don't get me wrong. This is a great view behind me. Corner offices, people in meetings, people happy in meetings. People happy in an office. You don't see hard hats. You don't see safety vests. You don't see first responders. You don't see nurses. You don't see the people, our garbage collectors that are making everything necessary go to make this life function. And that's one thing I've even talked to on our Workforce Development Council. There's a woman from Microsoft. I've even told her that, hey, you should be running that up the flagpole. What tech world is defining success as? And you've probably been in meetings just like I have. Do you feel like you're a success in a meeting, or do you feel like you're losing opportunities, or you're missing opportunities to get some work done? Right. So it's defining what a success looks like.
Right.
It's got to be from hard hats. It's got to be safety vests. It's building the infrastructure this country needs. Until
it affects you. I've said it all the time. I really didn't pay attention to City Hall before I started on the radio.
Yep.
I was happy golfing and running my business and being a dad and a husband and all that. But as I started to see things coming out and starting to learn about what happens, it's like I always said, be involved in the process.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Just like voting. If you're not voting, you got to be quiet.
It's building a legacy.
Yes.
It's being a part of something. One thing I like to point out, I worked on the Davies High School, start to finish, 2-year project. Radius walls, glass walls, the 2 glass walls in the back, I did those. Those are lasting lasting impacts on this world that I was a part of, that I can point to. We have members working on the BNSF railroad bridge out in Bismarck, between Bismarck and Mandan right now. They're building a new railroad track. That previous bridge in existence was built after the Civil War. So you're talking about an infrastructure piece that has been almost 150, 175 years. And now those members that are constructing that railroad bridge now, how long is that going to last? And something that you can point to, like, hey, the coal, the oil and the gas and the industry and everything that we need, from Amazon to Walmart's to medical supplies that go across that bridge every day, day in and day out for the next 150 years, you are a part of. That's
I think you're exactly right. I don't like the trades as a name. You know, I mean, it's like the trades. You know, it's not defining enough. But you know, we used to take pride in these jobs. You know, you remember when this country was being built. There's a famous picture of these guys up on a iron beam.
Yep.
And they're all sitting there.
Yep.
You know, Rosie the Riveter.
Yep.
All of these things that we took pride in. And now, like you said, the shift is like, you can only be proud if you're in an office. And so one of the things that I impress upon parents is that we have to break through the stigma that, oh, I'm just a plumber. You know, and I never forget, Mr. Bardwell lived in our community, and he started with his car, and he had his tools and an old station, a Ford Country Squire, sir.
Oh,
yes.
Nice.
And he started plumbing out of the back of his truck, and by the time I went to high school, left high school, he had 4 trucks.
Yep.
Okay, Bardwell Plumbing, never forget it. But it's like those are the things that we need to be talking to our young people about, as well as parents, getting the information out there. That was one of the frustrations that I had when I was working with Denise, is that in the schools, we did not have anything in place to really address the parents and let them know that this information is there. And that's no slam on career counselors, because let's face it, you don't have 4 career counselors serving a student body of 1,200 people. You hear that, school board? We need to have the people in place to do the job correctly. And that was the overwhelming sentiment that I was left with, is you're working hard. Denise there are a lot of people working hard to make this go, but we also need people like the school board and the legislature. I thought the work-based learning platform would have been up and running last year, okay? But we're still fighting for legislation, for money, to make sure that we can do the things that need to do in the area of workforce and the trades. And what bugs me is we have plenty of money in this state, and they're holding on to it like it's our last few nickels. And so I'm like, hey, you know what? You could fully fund this with just the interest from the legacy fund. Part of the interest of the legacy fund, we could get the trades, we could get work-based learning up and running. We could hire people and have a sustainable way to meet the needs of the trades and work-based learning in our community. Wow. So we're going to pivot a little bit, because I was starting to get heated up here. So on this list, I see that you had energy and development, and I was like, the trades? So I'm going to let you talk about energy and development. I've always said I like the idea of clean energy and all that. I love the idea of electric cars and, you know, all of this, but there's a dirty little secret. If we were to be able to do what everybody's talking about doing with the Green New Deal, I don't think we have the infrastructure to handle it. And in the middle of the summer, we still have rolling blackouts. We still have issues across the nation. And so in North Dakota, the one thing I say is, you know, we might complain about construction, but we do a pretty good job with our infrastructure. And so when we talk about economic development, this is where I think we make our bread and butter, besides the tech side. Yeah.
So North Dakota is really blessed in terms of energy development and deployment. For a long, long time, I mean, maybe you just go to your basic base load generation, electrical generation that we've had for decades. for us and our building trades members, boilermakers and electricians and iron workers, would be the power plants, the coal-fired power plants that we have out in the middle of central North Dakota, going to western North Dakota, out in the coal patch, coal country. And there's 5 generating units out there, and we've been a part of that. And that gives you that steady base load generation that you talked about. And that's always got to be a part of the mix. You got to have base load. You got to have standard base load. We were talking about on the break and the issues that ERCOT had a couple years ago in Texas. And when you get that energy mix that gets out of whack and you have too much reliant on renewables, and they're split by a third, and a third down in ERCOT, if one of those renewable energy goes down, where do you get the other energy to fill into that market? Now, there's a lot of other things at ERCOT, the challenges they have, a closed grid versus an open grid where MISO and SPP is up here in North Dakota that covers both sides of the state. Yeah, I know you're looking at me that weird.
I'm glazed over here. Wait a minute. I'm going to let you come back and talk about that. You lost me for a second when you started with the acronyms, because I'm like, okay, I got it. But James says we're up against the break, so when we come back, we're going to talk more about energy development in the final segment with Jason Elhert. Thank you very much for being on the show. We'll be back with Jason after this break. Welcome back to Talk of the Town with Jon Adams. It has been a fantastic hour. We've gone very fast. We've gone through a lot of different topics, but Jason, thank you for being on. Let's talk about the pre-apprenticeship program, because I think that's an immediate impact component to what you're talking about.
What we've really been, what I've always been kind of tasked with, and I went through college and then I went through an apprenticeship program, and coming back full circle, for a long, long time has always been those AP courses, those dual credit courses that a student can take in high school to get advanced into their either associate's degree, bachelor's degree, get that credit for a college after high school. And one of the thoughts I've always had is like, well, why can't we do that for apprenticeship programs? We have them all registered through the Department of Labor.
Right.
So it gives credence, it gives that certification across the country. So if you want to be an electrician in North Dakota and you go through an apprenticeship program and you get your license, that education goes with that individual. It gets recognized in Minnesota or Montana or Alaska. That's why we go through the registered apprenticeship model. So that's where was all this genesis of this idea was, well, why can't we do that for trades? Why can't we do that for registered apprenticeship programs? Right. And getting that dual credit, that pre-apprenticeship stuff. I've been working with like Dr. Jonas here in Cass County, but we're working across the state to get these things, these quality pre-apprenticeship programs going, get that framework. So when we roll it out, students could be taking an electrical course to become an electrician or a heavy equipment operator while in high school. So when they graduate, they can be advanced into that apprenticeship program by a year or two, ready to go to work for that contractor, be efficient, going through a work-based learning program so they are ready to go with all that equipment, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment, and you want them to turn dirt and make money.
That is exactly the point. So where are we at in the process? Because for me, government never moves fast enough. I mean, to me, even 3 years ago, we were talking about the number of people that we would need to meet the jobs that were coming up simply because of the diversion, right? And so 3 years ago, we were having the same conversation. How far are we into getting to realizing the goals that you talked about?
We're already started some of these programs out in Western North Dakota. Now we just need to bring them to Eastern North Dakota. The two programs that I mentioned, I think they had their first run of 12 or 14 electricians, and then I think 8 operators. And now this year, just talking to them yesterday, they have about 34 or 36 students signed up into that pre-apprenticeship stuff.
Almost 3 times as many.
Yep, and we're looking to bring that here to Cass County and in the eastern side of the state on how we do that and get that development going.
What's it going to take to get it there?
You know, honestly, I think we have the infrastructure in place. It's just getting that curriculum adopted, finding that teacher to do of the record, teacher of record, to get that program going. And then the other heavy lift is, for us in the trades, is getting a simulated work experience that's going to be valuable. And you know this from your time. If you're going to bring a student learner out on the job site, you want it to be a positive learning experience, but also what is those guardrails? Because you are talking about a 16 or 17-year-old minor, a child, and you just are not going to put them in a blade or a bulldozer to say, hey, go have some fun out there in that field.
Well, we would have if they were back in our time.
Yeah,
right?
Well, back in our time, yeah.
It's amazing how society has changed, because guys that I played football with were like, oh, when I was 8 years old, I could run a combine or a tractor. I used to drive beat for my dad.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did we get away from the fact that young people can do these things to such a cautious society? Yeah. Now, that's definitely another topic for another day, but I get it. And that was one of the hard pieces, is it also has to make sense for the employer.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed.
And that's a critical piece, because you're asking these people to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars. And when I worked at Shields, it was funny because people don't realize what it takes to build a store like that, to put the merchandise in a store like that, train people. It has to be thoughtful. It's got to make sense. And above all, it's got to make money.
Yep.
Right? I mean, we're not in business. I mean, I believe in altruism, but at the same time, it has to make sense for business people. Yep. I think I just answered my own question. Why does it move slowly? So with that, how can the legislature help?
So one of the things that we've been working in our subcommittees on the Workforce Development Council, thank you for the segue on this, is that we're going to be making some recommendations to the governor. But what we are actually asking for on apprenticeship stuff is, one is a new apprenticeship scholarship coming through the legislature. And another one is going to be a grant program through Commerce that employers or nonprofits that can tap into funds to help with these simulated work experiences to offset these costs. Now, they're not ever going to be fully, a full offset, but we're talking about a 1-to-1 match. So if that employer or whoever is going to make that investment, there can be some money coming back from the state to help them offset these costs. Because to all of this, what we talk about with like quality pre-apprenticeship programs, the key piece is this is an investment by not only the employer, but this should be an investment seen by the student. If you're going to make this commitment, you're talking about a 16, 17-year-old saying, I want to be an electrician, and I want to be an electrician that's going to take me 10 years to do, to get up to full speed. Are they willing to make that commitment? Because that's what the quality pre-apprenticeship program is about. It's not about, hey, just get in there, have some fun, get experience. No, you want to be a heavy equipment operator. We're going to give you the tools and the skills and the training to become a heavy equipment operator after high school and start making money.
I'm going to shift just a little bit, because A lot of people are changing a lot of career paths.
Yep.
You know, at 49, I started a window washing company. At 55, I started consulting business. At 58, I started a cigar wholesale company. And in our society, the average time at job is anywhere from 5 to 10 years now.
Yep.
And so we recognize that people are. How would you address the people that are in that transition phase that maybe haven't thought about the trades?
Expand your horizon, or look at it in the way we've already been discussing over the last hour, is just changing that perception. I was the same boat. I went to college, got a social studies education degree. I honestly thought I was going to be a teacher for the next 30, 35 years, be a football coach, run the strength program of that school, hopefully win a couple of titles, maybe some, those records, and then retire go down the road.
Right.
I lasted 3 years in the teaching field, but I got into the building trades. So from there, it opened up a world of opportunity.
Right.
I paid off my loans in 10 years. I paid off my wife's loans in 10 years. Both of our college loans.
Are you telling me you didn't want them to just forgive your student
No, no. And that's another topic for another show.
There were 4 of those such topics today. So Big Game James says we're wrapping up for the hour. Mr. Elhert, I want to thank you for being on the show. I think what you do is invaluable for our community. And keep up the good fight, and don't become too frustrated with the legislator. Again, but this is the thing. There are people behind the scenes doing great things all the time. We just need to give it voice, okay? We need to have the conversation. So with that, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been Jon Adams for Talk of the Town. Have a great week, and as always, stay black.